Welcome to another edition of the DMV Daily Radio Show. I'm your host, Hassan Giordano, a.k.a. Mr. Politics, back in the building to start off another wonderful week. And, of course, today we are joined by a political rock star from the city. I'm going to tell you how much a rock star this cat is. He maximizes his time as a councilman by scheduling this interview and having another interview with another TV station right outside of our studios right ahead of this interview. Man, that's when I'm talking about getting it in. But, of course, it's not often that we have a true sports fan in the studio, even if he is a goddamn Celtics fan. Yeah, I know he's a loser. But anyway, with the breaking news regarding the withdrawal of Joel Fitzgerald as Baltimore City's next police commissioner earlier today, the question everybody has now is, what's next? Well, our guest today can answer most of your questions, as he is the chairman of the City Council's Public Safety Committee. Of course, I'm talking about none other than my main man, Councilman Brandon Scott, is in the building. What's happening, Cap?
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me. As always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. But before we get to the program, of course, as always, I have to let you know that this program is brought to you by our fine sponsors, such as that stellar legal team known as Bates & Garcia Law Firm, specializing in criminal defense, real estate, and bodily injury cases. Bates & Garcia is Maryland's legal dream team, so make sure you contact them today for your free consultation. 410-814-4600 is the number. Tell them DMV Daily referred you, and they will give you that special homeboy hookup. 410-814-4600 is the number. The show is also brought to you by that stellar and savvy political strategist team known as Politicom Strategic Solutions, who have mastered the art of political communications and have successfully gotten people elected to office since the 1970s, once being led by the man by the name of Art Murphy. You know the name. If you're thinking about running for office in 2020, you want to give them a call today to make sure to get your campaign set up with a user-friendly website, integrated social media sites, campaign plan, and much, much more. They can be reached 240-242-7505 or on the web, www.politicomsolutions.com. And with the new year in full swing, so is DMV Daily Media, as we are set to launch all new podcasts and live stream radio shows this month, such as later this evening. By tomorrow, you will hear the weekly Annapolis Report, which I will bring to you each and every Monday, breaking down the inner workings of the 90-day legislative session set to begin later this week on Wednesday, January 9th at 12 noon. So make sure to tune in each and every Monday to DMVDaily.news to get the latest on bills being introduced, committee hearing dates and times, and the lowdown on all the smoke-filled backroom deals that took place in Annapolis. You know I'm going to give it to you. You can also hear a portion of that report every Tuesday morning from 7:15 to 7:30 a.m. as I give you the Annapolis Report on WOLB 1010 a.m., entering my 5th year as the political reporter for the Larry Young Morning Show. Also working out something else for y'all, so you'll be able to hear me on another station, but we'll talk more about that later in the week. We're also gearing up to launch the nationally syndicated legal podcast known as Law and Disorder with Ivan Bates Esquire, a weekly podcast you definitely don't want to miss. We'll also delve into the 2020 elections with the podcast Political Pond with Mark and Hassan, as well as bringing back Value My Vote 2020, as we sit down one-on-one with all the candidates running for office so they can be able to give you their platforms and you can talk to them one-on-one right before the primary elections in 2020, which is April 28th, 2020. Now, of course, you always can find these podcasts and more on the DMV Daily Podcast Network, and you can even get your own podcast on our network and get it on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, Alexa, Facebook Live, with YouTube Live, as well as Periscope. All you got to do is give us a call. 443-294-3900 is the number, or just give us an email, info@dmvdaily.news. We'll make sure to get your podcast up and running and produced right away. Again, if you want to join in on today's conversation, as always, you can call in or even text your questions to us or your comments at the studio line. 410-819-2370 is the number. Or if you are watching on our Facebook Live page. There's so many of you. I see you, Mr. Briggs, over there. My mom's on there. Jackie Addison. I see all of. Yeah, I know. Now I got to watch my language. Make sure you put your comment on it right now. So we'll be able to interact with you on the Facebook Live feed. Okay, again, today we are joined by the councilman from the 2nd Councilmatic District. He is the chair of the Public Safety Committee for Baltimore City, and of course he is basically been the face of Baltimore City as it relates to crime and getting us away from the 300 plus homicides, at least from the council side of things. And so the question everybody's asking, Councilman, what the hell happened?
Well, I think, Hassan, listen, I think that the mayor's administration had more fumbles in this nomination process than the Ravens had in the first half yesterday. I think when you add that,
that's a lot of fumbles,
in addition to what's going on for his son, and we hope his son has a quick and full recovery. And then I think the final straw was the most important voice. I know you've heard me say it in the media multiple times that, no, I don't have an opinion yet, because the most important people, the citizens of Baltimore, had not yet spoken. And they spoke on Saturday, and they were very clear. I think that when you add all of those things together, it was inevitable that he was going to be withdrawn. When you have a nominee who is put out there by a community leader and they say, no, it's not him, it's a group of people, then a month later it is him, and then they refuse to give out information. He's telling council people to Google him for his resume. They deny a request to see the full report, and then what came out from our trip to Fort Worth and that information that we learned there, and then what happened over the past few weeks. I think it's just the totality of that. And then, of course, with a sick child, I just think it was too much. And the process happened the way it did. It was not surprising to me at all.
So my question is this. You brought in and did a process whereas though the first time I've ever seen it before in terms of going, like you said, going to Fort Worth in the vetting process. Do you feel like that was a waste of money, and can we get that money back now that it don't mean nothing?
I'll say it like this to you, Hassan. I think that had we not went to Fort Worth and we didn't learn what we learned and that report didn't come out, there's no guarantee that nomination get withdrawn. But think about it like this. So $6,000 was spent on that trip. Imagine if he came here and enough of my colleagues voted for him, and then he's here for 8 months, 6 months, a year, and then he leaves, and we have to pay him $100 and something thousand for a payout, because that's how that happens. So I think that you have to weigh that. But also, when you think about that trip, you have to think about this. And we had this discussion on 88.9 last night. The council has to learn from the past mistakes of not just this current council, but the councils before us. And people saying the council, this is an overreach. No, this is the council for the first time learning from mistakes, including, I put myself in that, myself included, and making sure that they did as much due diligence as possible to make sure that this person was up to snuff. And when you add into the fact that the council couldn't get information about them from the administration, what other option did they have, right? Either they're going to go and we're going to go and do our own thing. And I think the president showed exemplary leadership in putting that together and being able to take us there. Or we were going to go off a 5-page resume. No, you can't do that. You have to have as much information as possible. And something else I want to be clear about. Folks are saying that, oh, this is why people don't want to come here. This guy, this is a process unlike any he's ever been through. That's a lie. Before he went to Fort Worth, and this is how it happens in basically every major city, before he went to Fort Worth, he and the other 4 finalists had to go to Fort Worth, face the community, face the city council, face the mayor and the city manager before they decided who the pick was. We're the only place that allows someone to be put in as the leader of the police department, the agency with the biggest budget. One, this guy would have been the first who never came as an acting capacity, but also without being here, right? Without talking to people. We have to look at that. This is not just about Dr. Fitzgerald or the way that Mayor Pugh is handling this. This is about a structure of the police department that needs to be changed. And I think that you heard that from the citizens overwhelmingly and clear on Saturday as well.
So with that, and I want to say to the family, as you can see, we've been joined by our legal eagle, Ivan Bates, is in the building as well. And I'm sure he has quite a few questions about this latest news and information coming out of the city council regarding the withdrawal of Joel Fitzgerald, the nominee from Mayor Pugh to be the next police commissioner of the city of Baltimore. In case you haven't heard about it, if you've been living under a rock the past 24 hours, has withdrew his name earlier this morning from consideration, meaning we're going to have a entirely new selection process for the Baltimore City Police Commissioner. But if that was so extensive and that didn't work out for whatever reason, because some people
was it extensive is the question.
Right, and that's the question. So people are questioning, number one, the process and how that played out, the secretive nature of it, the redacted background reports that were offered up to the council members because of it, the trip to Texas that the council had to do themselves because of the secretive nature of the selection. But also, some people are questioning, was this a setup? It seemed a little convenient that all this played out right before he was set to be in front of the voters of the city and the city council members. And so the question is, moving forward, because we're not going to get into speculation here, and our hearts and prayers are with his son down there in Texas and his family. But I can see how people speculate, because when the mayor of Fort Worth was asked, she acted like she didn't even know that his child was going into the hospital for this. And you would think, because that is her police commander currently, that she would have knew before most others. And we heard this information this morning from Fort Worth. From Fort Worth. They didn't come from our mayor. Didn't even come from him. It came from Fort Worth. How do we move past this and kind of redo the process, whereas though it's not so top down heavy and that the council has more inclusivity?
I think it's real clear. Hassan, let me be clear. What we need leadership in the Baltimore Police Department. We need transformational leadership in the Baltimore Police Department. We need a proven crime fighter who has the ability to simultaneously reform and restructure that police department. We cannot afford to have the wrong person, right? The wrong person will take us back years. We've had it, and many times. How many times have we rushed to get into a decision or putting someone in there, and then 6, 7, 8 years later, you're still dealing with the fallout? What should happen with this process now, what I think should happen, is that the mayor should have a more open and inclusive process where she includes members of the community, members of the council, groups around the city, and trying to figure out how they narrow it down to her of the best and allow her to put forth that nominee. That's what should happen. Now, I think that in order for this particular case, in the future, in order to make sure that happens every time, we need to have a law passed at the state level to, one, the first option, of course, for me is to make the police department a local agency so the council itself can legislate how the nomination process done, because the nomination powers are in section 16.5 of Baltimore City's public local law that can only be changed by the Maryland General Assembly. Or they can make changes to that mandates how this has to be a more open and inclusive process. So those are the only options on the table. Really, right now, for us, even the council, this is a waiting game, because our job is to say whether the nominee is appropriate or not for the city of Baltimore. The power and responsibility of picking that person is solely on the mayor of Baltimore. And that's the only person who can answer the question today of what's going to happen next.
And quickly, we did an article, breaking news earlier this morning on DMVDaily News. If y'all haven't seen it, go to DMVDaily.news right now. It laid out the rumors that were going around this weekend and the possibility of the backup name that the mayor may put forward. A lot of people have been saying that the possibility of a Sabrina Tapp Harper, the first female, would be the first female police commissioner in the city of Baltimore. Of course, our guy, Tony Barksdale, the former deputy police commissioner under the Dixon administration, Fred Bielfeldt. Of course, you got Melvin Russell, the deputy police commissioner, as well as the New Orleans superintendent, Michael Harrison. Is there a favorite from you or amongst the council that...
We also have Ed Jackson.
Ed Jackson.
Ed Jackson.
Right.
My constituent.
That's your constituent?
Yeah, Ed lives in my district.
Okay. Is there a favorite that you know that if the mayor picked right now would go through unanimously?
No, because so Hassan, while we've all heard this list, we have never received this in an official capacity. So we made that request, and let me back up a little bit too. When you talk about the redacted report that the council got, at the end of November, I sent the administration a letter asking them for the full report, but also about the committee, who they picked, all of that kind of process. Never received a response. And then what we also received, the council, via Senator Corey McCray, is an opinion from the Attorney General's office that works with them, that under MPIA, unlike what was being said by the administration, mainly the law department, there was nothing that prohibited them for sharing the full file with the council. Actually, there's an exemption in MPIA that anybody, elected officials, administrative body, that needs to see personnel information in order to make a decision, like the council is required to under 16.5 in section 16 of the public local law, has the right to see that information, and we still didn't see it. So we don't know. And again, we haven't seen this information. We don't know if these names are true, if they're all in rumor. And the truth is that it's not for us to decide, right? We only deal with one person. The council deals with one person, and that's who's put forth. And what is more important than what council members think is how we have a process with integrity that's open and transparent, so that the best person gets put forth. That's what's the most important thing from a councilmatic point of view.
Councilman, would it be necessarily improper for the council to have their own short list?
Yes, I think it would be, because that would be a big overreach, because we are supposed to provide the balance, right? We're supposed to check what they do to make sure they're doing the right thing. The council's power is to vote a nominee up or down, right? That's the power. This isn't Baltimore, isn't Fort Worth. Baltimore isn't other cities that have different forms of police department structure, which, of course, I support changing the structure of the police department. I've been the first to say that we need to go to, or back to, having a board of police commissioners, so that the process is a different, from the ground up. But right, as it's constituted today, we have one role, and that's not our job. Now, we can comment and say, yes, we need to have a better process, but this is again why the police department does not need to be a state agency, right? Because the folks that people hold responsible for the police department in this process have no power to change the process, right? So that puts us in a position of waiting to see. And I think that this is another example of that, because if the process was different, yes, that could be true. But as we sit today, no, our job is to see the nominee, do our own background and information, because it's been proven that the council should have been doing that for the get-go, right? The council should have been doing that. We own that, and then make a vote. That's the process as it is today. And I think that what people say, the president set a dangerous precedence. I said, no, the president and the council members that went to Fort Worth, what we've done, this council has done, is said that, okay, we're going to do things differently. Because listen, what has the status quo gotten us? Where has that gotten us? Doing the same thing over and over again. It's gotten to a position where the city's at a breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not a lot to say. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think what happened Saturday, in so many ways, to have the community, in Baltimore, it's hard to get everybody almost on the same page.
Yes, Lord.
And about 99.9% of the people were angry. They were upset.
The one was a cop from Philadelphia.
Yeah, and the one, was from, a cop in Philly. So I think, look, in 2 years from now, 2020, the mayor has to stand up for re-election, provided that she wishes to run again. I'm not just assuming that she's going to run, but let's say she's going to run, and this is one of the things that she'll be judged with, and judged on. So, if you're the mayor, you have to get this right, and when 99% of the people are saying no, you have to listen. I definitely do think that the city council played a major role in saying, hey, we have to sound the alarm to let everybody know what's really going on, what's happening. And they put together their breakdown. They went down to Texas. I think people were able to see that. People were able to feel educated, and people were able to feel involved. I think that played a major role. But I also think that, look, I feel sorry for, I think, Fitzgerald as a person, because I don't know the man, but God, you don't want to see anybody go through what he went through. Now you have the issues with your son.
Yeah.
You almost kind of feel like, who was he listening to during this process? You always have to almost say, was it the mayor? And it's obvious that he was receiving some bad advice from whoever he was listening to. But my question to you, Councilman, is, would you like to see someone from Baltimore in that position? Not necessarily in the police department, but from Baltimore in that position, or outside of Baltimore, and why?
I think for me, Ivan, I think that I can have it either way as long as it's the right person. If the person is coming from outside of Baltimore, they have to come from a place that's like Baltimore, who've experienced this neighborhoods like Baltimore, and that can be comparable. For example, New Orleans is a perfect example of a comparison city to Baltimore. Where I think that Mr. Fitzgerald was going to struggle from the beginning is that Fort Worth is nothing like Baltimore, right? Nothing like Baltimore. If someone is from Baltimore, if the person is from Baltimore, they have to be someone that already has the respect of the community, right? They have to be respected across the community, not just in one section or another. They have to have broad respect from everybody. Community citizen groups, religious groups, business folks, political folks, all of that, in addition to what I said earlier. If we're going to continue, and I don't necessarily think that the person has to be, the person has to be a sworn police officer. So I think that we could have a civilian person there with the right crime fighting team around them. But as we normally do things, that person has to be a proven crime fighter with the ability to simultaneously reform and restructure. But it's going to be hard for anyone to do that, not knowing the kind of communities that we have. So I can go either way, because I think when you look at the history of the police department, we haven't done great with outsiders, right? We just simply haven't done that. But I think that it could be done with the right person coming from the right background. But we'll see.
Okay.
If you got a question for the councilman, make sure you call in the show right now. 410-819-2370 is the number. You can also go to our Facebook Live page at DMV Daily News and make your comments or your questions there. I see a few of them shouted out. Our man Jeremy Elkridge is over there online as well. But we have somebody on the line right now.
Yeah, and family, you could also text your messages as well. If you don't feel like necessarily talking on air, you can also text your questions or comments to 410-819-2370. We have Brother Thomas on the air. And family, we're going to ask everyone to be respectful, or else we will hit the dump button this evening. Brother Thomas, are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
My man T. Briggs, what's happening, Cap?
What's going on, Cap? Councilman Scott, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, brother. How are you today?
Hey, man, listen, Brandon, I'm one that normally, if I'm wrong about something, I'll be the first one to apologize. I would say I had you wrong to begin with, so I'm asking you to accept my apology on that aspect of it. I do believe you are a public servant that care about the people, and for that reason, man, I can stand behind you in what you're trying to do to help the people with this thing now. And I want to say I appreciate that, man.
Thank you so much, brother.
And I want to say, man, I've heard people saying that the council, what you guys did is you forced Fitzgerald's hands in the thing. I understand the report that you guys got on him was a redacted report, a redacted background check.
Yeah, the one
is that true?
Yes, the one we received from the mayor's office was not the full background check, just a portion of it.
Okay, so therefore, if there's nothing to hide, why redact it? And why not release the full report? God knows I hated that whatever happened with his son happened with his son, but that could be the best thing that for Baltimore, for him to withdraw his nomination. Now, the mayor is going to have to get this right, because in 2020, people are going to remember she had 3 or 4 possibly police commissioners, and come on, man, with Fitzgerald, I think he's been in 4 different police departments in a 5-year stint.
I don't know if
Is
it was
that
4.
true?
I think it was 3.
Three, maybe. Well,
He's
hold on,
Allentown,
Three,
Pennsylvania.
yeah, another part,
Nope.
a city in Texas, and Fort Worth. So 3.
3. Okay, he was in Allentown and Philadelphia, right?
Well, Philadelphia. No,
5
he
years,
wasn't.
though.
No, he was in Philadelphia before that, but not in the last few years.
Yeah, that's where he started.
Okay, so yeah, but anyway, he's had 3 different stints in a 5-year period.
Yep.
Who does that?
Yeah, no. Well, you have to also remember that police chief leaves, but that was a concern for a bunch of folks as well. That the fact that he doesn't seem to stay anywhere long, and I think that when you read the council's report from when we went to Fort Worth, which nothing was redacted. The only thing that wasn't in there was one gentleman who did not want his conversation with us to be public because of ongoing work there. You heard that from folks too, that he was a jumper, so to speak.
Right now, I heard one. Where was the captain from? Was he from Allentown? Was he from Fort Worth?
Yeah, he was.
Said,
Yeah, he was from Fort Worth. He was actually a guy who was demoted by Fitzgerald for allegedly releasing body camera footage of the Jacqueline Craig incident.
wow. So if we had got Fitzgerald, we may have had some of the same old things now that we are trying to fight with the decree. That the cops is basically getting away with this stuff, man.
Yeah, and then we also heard from the ACLU on Saturday they were able to come up with a letter from him in October opposing the creation of a civilian review board there that the Race and Justice Task Force in Fort Worth had called for as well.
Wow. So therefore, he's known by his own words then to basically go against what's actually going to be right and protect the people.
Well, we don't know. I mean, and we will never know. Now is that how can we have the best possible person to lead Baltimore is all I'm concerned about. And I hope his son has a full and quick recovery.
Could that possibly be somebody inside the police department, or could we I tell you who I would like to see, Mr. Scott. I would like to see a woman in the charge, whether she's black, white, or whoever. I think it's time for a female police commissioner in the city.
Would not bother me, but the opinion of who is solely at this point up to the mayor.
All right, Brother Thomas, I concur with you as well. I'd like to see a woman as well in leadership, and someone that's been there internally, and that has a clear understanding of.
But see, the thing I have a problem with that is that's just like I want a black man in there, or just some white person. I want a white person. It shouldn't be about race, color, gender, anything. It should be about the best qualified person.
Yep.
Period.
I would just like to see
man,
a woman,
woman, gay, straight. It shouldn't matter.
Of course.
Yep.
But I'd like to see a woman. Again, I think we've had male leadership that dominated the Baltimore City Police Department for eons, and I think it's time to just change.
Dan Roderick's asked a good question: is why not Gary Tuggle, the current interim police commissioner who was put in that place?
Well, he withdrew his name.
Yeah, he withdrew his name.
But I'm sure now, I think, and here's the rumor, and I don't know if I know you don't really deal with rumors and innuendos too much, but it was said that he withdrew his name after that he couldn't pass the test that apparently they must go through to be an actual commissioner, not to be an acting commissioner or interim, but there's some kind of test that they have to pass that apparently he didn't. I don't know if that's true or not, but that came out right at the time that he did withdraw his name. Now that this guy is gone, do you think that Tuggle would now resubmit his name?
I don't know. Only interim commissioner Tuggle knows that, but I think that also knowing what we just went through in this process, I think that people would be alarmed that someone who withdrew would now want the job. I think, but that's totally up to him. If he wants to apply for it, he should do that. And if the mayor picks him, he'll go through the process. He is originally he's an East Baltimore boy. So,
what about Dr. Tyrone Powers?
Look, man, I don't know how many different ways I can say this to you guys. It can be a civilian. is solely up to the mayor. This portion of the process is up to the mayor of Baltimore City. Now, should we have a more open and inclusive process? Yes, but it's going to be up to, look, even in the cities that have boards, for example, in Los Angeles, the board nominates it down to the top 3, and then the mayor picks from that top 3. In Seattle, where they have this robust community process, they nominate it down, and then the mayor picks from that top 3 people.
So if you were the mayor,
Yeah.
hypothetically, right now, who would be your top 3 candidates to be the next police commissioner of Baltimore?
Well, Hassan, see, if I was the mayor right now, we would have had a group and a committee that would pick the top 3, so I wouldn't know. My committee would tell me who the top 3 is. I would be.
But you would have to choose from those top 3, right?
But I would choose from those top 3, but I wouldn't know who they are because it wouldn't be solely up to me. And I think that's the kind of process that we need. We have that process for the planning department, for example. They're going through that now. The planning commissioner is selected from a top 3 of candidates as ran through and ran down to the top most qualified 3 by the planning commission itself. So the mayor, no mayor has ever just been able to go and pick, I want this person to be the planning commissioner. It's done through a more robust process.
We had a similar process like that with Stephanie Ryland Blake with Dr. Anthony Batts, I thought.
Yeah,
she
we had
actually
that,
formed
and I
the
think
commission.
the Mayor Dixon did the same thing when all the mayors have done that. I spoke with somebody the other day who sat on one for Mayor Smoke, and Mayor O'Malley did these things. This not uncommon.
Right.
All right, well, we have a caller on line, too. Caller, are you there? Caller, you there?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, Leon.
Hey,
Brother
Leon, how
what's
you
going on,
doing?
sir?
I'm good. Councilman Brandon Scott and Hassan, you know, this is change that will come to Baltimore City. The whole process was backwards from the start to go, okay? We elect 14 councilman to district. We have you people there to be our spokespersons, right? And if you guys don't speak on our behalf, the citizens of Baltimore get nothing, okay?
That's right.
I don't think it should be up only to the mayor. You all should have a say in who police in our districts and who is the police commissioner. The community should have a say in what goes on. That's what makes the balance in Baltimore City. And until we get to that stage, we are a losing city. The people don't trust what's going on downtown in City Hall unless we could have commitment from you guys. And the whole process, Friday, that's when I told them, this Mrs. Fitzgerald is not coming back to Baltimore because he saw what was going on, okay? The process was backwards. We are spending good money after bad. Mr. Brandon Scott, sir, I ran for city council president once before, and this process that we have in Baltimore City needs to be changed. Sir, thanks for a breath of freshness in the city of Baltimore. People, you should be the president of Baltimore City Council, sir, or the mayor. Good evening, sir, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Leon. I think that you have to remember that the entire city council has voted in the past 2 years consecutively to ask the General Assembly to change the structure of the police department, because that's the problem. We feel as though the citizens, you guys, hold your council members responsible for the police department, but outside from voting for or against their budget and voting for the police commissioner, we have no authority. This is the only city.
I know, but you all should.
We should, and that's why we need you to call your state senators and delegates and tell them to turn it over.
Okay.
That's
Not
right.
only that, in the school board and also in the civilian review board, I will submit my name for civilian review board or the school board. Our children suffer, and our city council have no strength to do anything about it.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. All right. Thank
I
you so
need
much
your
for your
help,
call,
sir.
Brother Leon.
Thank you, Leon.
Yeah,
And
thank you,
right,
sir.
we
All right,
definitely
bye-bye.
need that. But he did allude to a question that we've
How
talked
I
about.
figured
on
you
this
was gonna
time.
go there.
Of course, I got to. Mr. Politics, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Naturally, right?
So, city council president's on the table, mayor's on the table.
I think you know the answer to this question already.
I'm gonna keep hitting you until you answer the damn question.
I'm going to answer it. It just might not be the way that you want me to answer it, sir.
Okay.
I'm going to make the best decision for the city of Baltimore. I think that the citizens want me in elected leadership. What that is going to be in the future, they're going to determine, not me.
How?
And-
How would they determine it? Answer me that. How is the citizens going to determine your decision on running either citywide or staying in the second district?
Because you know how those things are done, Mr. Giordano. You talk to citizens. You go out and see what people want you to do, and also I have to talk to my family and see what they think and what they want me to do. Because I think that you also have to remember this is year 13 in City Hall for me, because I had the 4 years as staff too. So I want to do whatever I was put on this earth to do to make Baltimore better. For me, that doesn't even necessarily mean that I have to stay in elected office. I'm going to be in service regardless, and that decision will come. Whatever I shall be and whatever the citizens shall have me as is what I will be.
So if you decide to run hypothetically citywide for whatever position, is there a favorite individual that you would like to see run to fill your position in the council in the second district?
I'll say this. What I want to see in the second district when I'm no longer in that seat is I want to see the first woman to be elected to that seat. Outside of
Danny
that right now, I am not at liberty to say what I want to see.
Can I just say, though, Councilman, you have been a great civil servant. I've known you since you were a staff member. If you remember, we had a police brutality incident.
Yes, I remember.
In South Baltimore was the first time I've ever met
Yep.
you. And you were probably one of the only staff members out of even the mayor at the time that actually called and followed up with me and my family.
Yes, sir.
So you're
And then all our great
proactive.
days up in Frankfurt and Sinclair dealing with that.
Yeah, with the trouble.
That trouble.
Yeah, and the business trip. Yep.
Yes, sir.
We have another caller. Caller, are you there?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, Councilman Scott. I have two questions regarding the police situation. Number one.
And caller, who are you,
what is
by
it-
the way? Callers.
This is Richard.
This is
Richard
Richard.
Elliott.
Oh, hey,
That's our main
Richard,
man,
how are you? Well, we didn't
I'm
know
good,
that,
sir.
man. Calm down.
You can't tell
may
by
I
his
start-
voice?
May I
The
start
audience
by
may not
echoing
know.
May I start by echoing Leon's sentiment? I think you should run for city council president too. And I have two questions. Number one, what is the primary policy implementations that you're looking for in a city in a police commissioner that you would vote for? And do you think it should be an elected position, or do you think it should remain under the current system, or
So-
Great
the
question.
changes that we're talking about on the program now?
So two things. Well, let me start with the last question first. What I have, and actually, Hassan, I don't know if you even know this, because this is something that doesn't get told in the public. So everyone knows that 2 years ago, we had Delegate Kurt Anderson put forth the total local control bill for the city council to take control over the police department. A little known fact is that before going to that method, myself and Councilman Bill Henry, your councilman, actually worked with Senator McFadden to draft up a piece of legislation to quote unquote, because people don't know this, the police leader in Baltimore is called commissioner because it used to be a board of police commissioners. In fact, it was the board of police commissioners in Baltimore City that suggested that we have a Maryland State Police Department, and that's actually on the state police website. But to reform the board of police commissioners for Baltimore City, much like they have a hybrid of what they have in LA and Detroit. And what I have said is that I believe that the quote unquote chair of that board should be a citywide elected official that is compensated, because it doesn't matter which mayor you're talking about. The structure of our city government needs to be taken a look at very extensively. And it's just, maybe it's time for us to realize that it does need to have a more broadening approach to governance, but also that way some people that you can hold directly accountable for, not just for one agency. So yes, I think that it could be quote unquote an elected leader by way of having a board that is a mixture of appointed and elected positions. But that's something that I've been very clear about from the beginning. To your other, to your second point, I think that for me, there's a few things. I want to see how the next police leader is going to tell me that she or he is going to reduce crime in our city, but do that in a constitutional way, do that in a way and simultaneously, as I said earlier, with doing the reforms necessary. I want them to opt in because unlike all the other agencies, city agencies, this police department does not have to follow my equity legislation that's going to go into effect because we are exempt from legislating on them. I want them to start to operate through a lens of equity. I want them to operate in a way where they are going to be more efficient and effective with their resources that they have today before asking for more, using technology, policing in a smarter way, looking at things other than, listen, there is a better way to police in the city of Baltimore than we've had clearly. And that's what I want to hear from that person, how they're going to do true community policing, building consensus in the communities. Because what has happened is I think that people forget how eclectic Baltimore's neighborhoods are. The way we can't continue, we can't have this top-down stuff from Fayette Street. And this is, listen, if you're someone like me who spends a lot of time talking for police officers and commanders, one of the things that I think that they make the mistake of doing consistently is the folks at Fayette Street take this cookie cutter and try to take it, hey, it works on the east side, let's do it on the west side. That doesn't work in Baltimore. It works in East Baltimore, let's try it in Northeast Baltimore. Things don't work from one neighborhood to the next, let alone one part of the city to the next. And we have to have a more concrete, on-the-ground way of allowing people in the police department that is not a real leader knows that you have to rely on other folks to help you lead. And when you have district commanders and other folks that have the wherewithal to police their communities in a way that's homegrown to their local districts, we have to allow them the opportunity to do that as well. We have to have a system of policing that is inclusive for everybody and works for everybody in Baltimore, and not just have things forced down the people's throat. And we have to listen to them too. We can't just also, the police officers' voices have to be heard. And I think that folks struggle with all of that, hearing from the community and the police. We like to have people to just make decisions for everybody, and it doesn't work that way.
Hey, one last question. People have asked you who you would be putting forward. I don't think you can really answer that fairly. Is there anybody you would absolutely not support for the position? And if so, why? Or is there anything in a position, or is there anything in a person's past that you would automatically make you not support them?
Yeah, of course. If people have integrity issues and things like that, it would be hard for me to support that person. That's the key. If they had racial stuff or sexual stuff or all that kind of stuff. But also, I think that if the person is local, looking at people's connections to things and misconduct in the police department that we've had in the past would be an important thing too.
All right. Thank you, Councilman.
Thanks for the call,
Thank you,
Richard, and the excellent question. So I definitely want to say real quick, shout out to Rich Gibson. We had him on the show last year. I know that's your main man. Yep. Today he was sworn in as the first African-American state's attorney for Howard County.
Good brother, too, man.
Yeah, real
good brother.
Man. Calvin Ball, of course, the first African-American county exec.
Yes, sir.
Over there. And Marcus Harris, the first African-American sheriff over there in Howard County.
Trifecta.
Yeah, and condolences to Nina Harper's family, a great former state delegate here in the city of Baltimore, community activist who passed away, whose funeral service actually was earlier today. So we definitely want to give condolences and shout out to her family, and 1.5 million people in Florida tonight regain their voting rights down there in the Sunshine State, thanks to a ballot initiative was passed.
Yes, sir.
No. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, Councilman, it almost feels like we're looking toward the position of this police commissioner to be the magic pill to turn around the crime.
I called it the Superman.
Yeah.
Looking for
Super somebody.
The crime that's plaguing our city. When you look at the players from the criminal justice system, you have the police and the police department, you have the state's attorney, and you have the judges. But the two main ones are the police department as well as, also let's include the city government. For purposes, let's say the mayor's office of the city government, the police department, the state's attorney. Two questions. One, I noticed a lot of times you have the meetings, and I haven't really seen where you've included the state's attorney's office in some.
Oh,
of the
they're
meetings.
included. Yeah.
But who's from their office has been included?
It depends. So we requested in January of 17 that they come up with a complete and comprehensive strategy to reducing crime. As you know, listen, I tell people all the time, if they think that the police department itself or law enforcement itself or the judicial system itself is going to solve crime in Baltimore City, then I got a stadium I want to sell them to, because it's just not going to happen. But what we asked for a comprehensive approach, and then what we did last year via resolution is ask for all the mayor's agencies and the school system and the state's attorney's office to present to us a comprehensive approach. And what we do is, actually it's almost time for one now, is that we bring them all in, all of those agencies in quarterly, and have them present to us on how they're working together and what they're doing to do it and how they're doing those things. Of course, you hear the mayor talk about all the time how they consistently are meeting and they're exchanging with each other. And Ivan, what I'll say to you is this: I think that when you're putting that aside for a second, I think that what's clear from the judicial side, right? When you're talking about police, state's attorney, and that's law enforcement, and the judges, what I think we need is for everybody involved to take a step back, put their personal feelings on the sideline for a second, and realize that there is blame to go around for all of them. Everybody makes mistakes. Lord knows I make mistakes. And when I make mistakes, I have to own up to them. When you're a position like ours, a police officer, an attorney, or a judge, you have to look at yourself consistently and make that analysis and say, okay, what can I do better? How can I be better in my job? And I think that with all the back and forth and stuff that has been going on, with the op-ed that Commissioner Tuggle wrote, with leaving out that the kid was robbed by GGTF officers, and then the judges and attorneys having to slap back at him, like that stuff.
I wrote that op-ed.
I did. It was a great one, actually. It was a good op-ed, great op-ed. I knew somebody was going to do it, and we appreciate you for that, very much so. But what has to happen is, like, those folks have to just say, okay, how can we just stop this for a second? Because people are dying, right? People are dying. And I think that, and also for the citizenry, more and more now you have, and I think this is the best blessing that we have. You have a citizenry that's more informed. More and more now, people are calling my office and saying, hey, how can I get in contact with these judges or this judge or such and such? Because now people know that, hey, we elect these people too. Because good, bad, or indifferent, for at least the first 30 years that I was alive, people in Baltimore blame the mayor and city council for everything, right? Like stuff that you have no power over, right? For example, they tell us it's our fault that, the police are able to have a law enforcement bill of rights, and it has nothing to do with the city council,
right?
Or hey, what are you going to do about the schools? And we have no authority over the Baltimore City school system. But now people are becoming more informed, and especially when it's parts in talking about crime. So if you know that and you're in that part of the government, it would behoove them and us, because we have to do better at it too, to say, okay, how can we come together on this and figure out things? Because we just have to, and we have to hold people accountable. And when they get mad at me, they get mad at me. All of them have been mad at me, right? But it's not personal for me. Like when I see you later, if we had a disagreement, and if you play basketball, I'm still gonna hoop with you. It's not a personal thing.
Why you keep bringing that up? You're a scrub, man.
Hey, we can put this live on DMVDaily.
Yes, we do.
And
we can school him.
We can donate.
Like my man LeBron does to the team every time.
We can donate the proceeds. We can donate the proceeds to the charity of the DMVDaily's choice.
We're gonna make this happen
live on DMVDaily, and
set it up.
And watch Hassan get beat.
He ain't got enough weight. I can back his little butt down there all day long.
First of all, you gotta get the ball.
Right.
And
so you'll do nothing but shots on you all day
Since
long.
he's a LeBron fan, I know he only good for 3 quarters. He gonna disappear in the fourth.
Go take that Newport break. We got another caller. Lisa Mills is on the line.
That's
Lisa,
hilarious.
Lisa, you there?
Lisa's gonna be the referee.
Hey, Lisa. What's going on, sister?
Lisa.
Hello.
Hello. Turn your
Stop
TV down.
listening to your.
She had us on mute.
Yeah.
Now she listening to us on the device.
No, I'm here.
Okay. What's happening?
Hi, Councilman Scott.
Hey, ma'am, how are you?
Hi, Hassan. Hi, Hassan.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, right now, I think what we should be doing is all praying for Fitzgerald's son. You know, it's a difficult decision when you have to choose between your service and your family. And we can all acknowledge what he's going through. It's got to be very painful and very stressful for him. So I'm going to allow this man, I'm going to stand by his decision to choose his family over this matter right now. And I would think that all of us should do the same thing because it's very difficult. Councilman Scott, I just wanted to say to you, I admire what you're doing. I admire the things that you've done. I admire the way that you make yourself available to the people of this city. And just keep up the good work.
Thank you, Miss Lisa, and thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Speaking of resolutions with you and my councilman,
Yes, sir.
you guys sponsored a resolution that I was very proud of that sought that actually Delegate Brooke Learman's about to introduce here in the city council that would then open up the voting process and open up what's called open primaries as well as ranked choice voting that would be effective only in Baltimore City. This wouldn't be across the
ranked
state.
choice voting.
Or ranked. So to me, open primaries are better than ranked choice, but other people would.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, we agree. This is actually a resolution. Believe it or not, the resolution was introduced by my colleague, was the lead sponsor, Councilman Ben Henry, and I was the co-sponsor. The resolution was introduced in 2015, passed in 2016, and Delegate Learman, they tried something before, and now she's going to thankfully put this in. I think that for me, because we've heard some blowback on this one, especially from folks who think that this will negatively impact the black community, right? But what if you look at the numbers in Baltimore, Baltimore is one of the few cities that don't have open primaries. And I think, as I said to the Sun when they asked, it's very hard for someone to govern when they don't win with 50% of the vote, right?
And do me a favor when you say open primary, just so it can explain.
Yeah, for the public. So, right now in Baltimore, really the only election that matters is the primary election, because if you are a Democrat and you win the primary, you're going to win the general unless you pass away, basically.
Or get indicted. Well, even if you're accused, you can win the general.
I was going to say. So you in open primary cities, what happens is everyone runs in the primary, regardless of, and everyone can vote in the primary for whoever, regardless of party affiliation. And what happens in those cities is, if no one wins with a majority, with 50% of the vote, the top two go to the general for runoff. And I think that when you look at the history of not just the mayor's office but city council races, there are several incidences that are glaring and others that would have been different. Like Councilwoman Shannon Sneed would have came in 2011 and not in 2016, right? William P. Welch probably wouldn't have had a first term, right? He wouldn't have had a term on the council. And you think about how would the election in this last mayoral election been different if those two young ladies had to go to a runoff
head to
head. And I think that for me, Hassan, is because the truth is, listen, and I wholeheartedly support people to be whatever party they want. And I think that, but with the numbers being what they are in Baltimore, what open primaries will ensure is that you get the best Democrat, right? To use a great term, best Democrat in most cases.
You'll get the best candidate.
Yeah,
but 80% of the electorate is Democrat.
So
you're likely to get the best Democrat.
What you won't have is someone who wins with 30, 34, 35% of the vote and then have to govern with most people not voting for that person. And we'll see what happens. It's going to be, I think it'll be a tough fight to get that through in Annapolis, but we'll see.
Yeah, well,
Would it
because the
just be for
Democratic
the mayoral?
establishment doesn't.
Would it-
Just for Baltimore.
Just for Baltimore.
Just for
Would
Baltimore.
it just be just the mayoral race, or would it be all races?
So
cities.
all local races, yeah, all local races. It wouldn't, yeah, it would be all local races. Now, depends on how the legislation is written. I don't know if it would go. It wouldn't impact. I don't think it would impact state's attorney
No,
off the
'cause
bat
that's
because
in
the state,
states.
yeah, it would
Yeah.
require more to do that. But mayor, city council, comptroller would fall under that avenue.
Just to sit. So that's why we're on different
Yes,
paths.
paths,
So
right.
during the presidential election year, it would
Right.
be just for those races.
Because the
And
race is already going to be there. So
which is another interesting question that somebody raised to me during the elections, which I can understand why to some degree, but I try to explain it the best in terms of the state's attorney is a state position, same way as the sheriff,
Right.
same way as the clerk of the court, same way as the registrar of
wills,
wills.
yes, sir.
But they're also local. And so somebody said, well, wouldn't it be easier to have all the local races combined in a local? I was always in favor of the city council and the mayor's race being combined with the state races. That way we have it all at once. So you already know up and down you're choosing this, or to combine city and state, or and have them in two separate.
So
it's hard to.
One, I think that
And we just had this argument a couple of years ago.
yeah,
when
you
they
and
changed the
I
election.
had this. We've had this discussion on multiple occasions. I think that that's a bit much for people. When you think about people at the ballot box, if you add all of that and you add the ballot questions, that's a lot. But also, Hassan, you also know that I believe that one of the things that I think that we should look at and consider is doing like a lot of cities too, and that they have staggered elections for their local, right? Some council districts are elected on one cycle on another, and that prevents a lot of cities do that to prevent having a complete washout and a slate, so people don't get to power up with each other. But I think that it was a great thing that they moved the city election from being a standalone, which I think was a huge waste of money and had very low turnout numbers, to being with the presidential election. But I think that we should still consider staggering the council ones.
And family, just letting you know, you can join the conversation with your questions or comments. You can give us a call at 410-819-2370. Again, the number is 410-819-2370. And just going to the Facebook post real quick. Kaylin Young says that Brandon shoots. I'm just saying.
Woo! You heard that? That's coming from a man that saw me hit
Subscribe too.
He saw me hit a game winner on Thursday night.
Against what? Elementary school kids?
No, this is grown men. Come holler at. Look, hey,
Out of here. Let me tell you, I ain't hooped
Pick
in
the charity.
3+ years.
Pick the charity.
And I smoke.
you might
and I
want
still
you
beat
might
your
want to
hand.
take 3 months off and get the nicotine the nicotine gum going before you come play me.
We got the union bosses of all bosses on the line. Mark, you there?
Yes, sir.
Mark,
Hey.
we
You
hope
talk about no open primaries, hang up on him.
Lord.
Hang up on him.
you can't hang up on the co-host, man.
Yeah, we can. Don't talk about no open primaries.
And he feeling sick. We hope you feel better, Mark.
I was trying to be
Feeling
a
what?
spectator, but y'all start this open primaries crap.
Oh, that's why I call him. Hassan about to push the button right now.
Councilmember, you were doing so good for the first 50 minutes. I was so with you, but this open primaries crap. Now, first of all, if you want to be a Democrat, or if you want a say in who represents the Democrats in a general election, become a Democrat. This isn't brain
Open
surgery.
primaries would just do away with that. Here's the problem with that. And Mark, I get you with that. I understand the argument
no,
is
but
if you
here's
want to
the
be a
other thing.
Republican or you
The
want to be
idea
this,
of-
but
the
most
idea
people
of
don't
moving to
understand the
state.
process. They don't
Huh?
get most people who register as independents, right? Or the third party because they don't believe in both parties, don't realize when they do it that, I can't vote in the primary. Why can't I vote in the primary? Most people are not as educated as the people who watch and listen to this program.
As
So
an
you gotta
independent,
understand that.
As an independent myself, I do understand that and understand that I forfeit that right at the time.
Yeah.
And I look at it as just let y'all figure it out, and I'll meet y'all at the ballot box.
to have no say
In
in
November.
November.
Well,
You
I
have
mean,
no
whoever's
say in
left,
November.
whoever's left
Oh,
over.
come on, cut
I
it
mean,
out.
You know,
There's no
What
say.
about the integrity of the Democratic Party?
Y'all never had integrity from the giddy-up. What you
Now
mean?
hold on. Now this is where there's integrity. Calm down, Hassan. See,
Where?
us Democrats,
Where'd it come from?
like the good union boss and myself, can disagree on these issues. But what you're not going to do, as they say, is you're going to attack our whole party while he's homesick and I'm sitting right here.
because you know Maya's gonna get you the next time she's on
I
here.
thought he was at a Democratic fundraiser.
No, he's at home sick. He said he wasn't feeling good, man.
Yeah.
And now you got his blood pressure up. I'm talking about Mark.
Yeah.
And not only
Well,
that,
he's
but
sick
the
because of the
idea
party.
moving
Y'all got us
city-
shut down, and federal workers can't go to work.
The idea of
No, your
moving
crazy
city
president has the
elections-
government shut down. Let's be clear.
The idea of moving city elections to conform with state elections would be an absolute dumpster fire. Do you understand?
I tried to
You
tell
would
him
have
that
to
like
get-
three
you would have-
times.
You would have to get your mail delivered in a wheelbarrow.
Exactly.
Well, you already got to do that now in the state elections.
Well, okay, so you want to double it. How the hell?
Yeah,
how
I
the
told
hell
But
him
am I
here's the
as a
problem.
delegate-
Here's the problem. You're moving it, consistently moving it.
We're
whereas
not. It's only been moved one time.
No, it
Hassan.
was moved before that too. You got to do your history.
Oh,
See,
yeah,
y'all
yeah,
come
you
on,
forgot- I
y'all
forgot.
young bucks come
You're
on here
right.
without the
You're right.
history.
You're right.
Of the politics.
But remember,
of this
it's
town.
not the city moving it; it's the state. I want to remind you. of
It
that.
is, but
And
most of the time, and in this time in particular, it was moved on purpose so that way a certain state senator did not have to give up their seat to be able to run for a local position.
Okay,
and vice versa.
I get you, Mark.
Come on, man,
You ain't
you
gotta
know
say.
that.
Yeah, I know you're gonna be surprised, but I'm gonna take up for the person right here. But also remember that there was a young council member at the time that said there's a solution to that. If folks don't want city people running for state offices or vice versa and having a free shot, then add in a piece of legislation and rule that requires if you run, then you got to vacate your seat.
But it never
Resigned
happened.
to run law.
It never happened.
You're absolutely
Because
right.
it never happened
it
because
didn't.
Mike Miller and the party powers to be would never allow for that to happen.
Well, it's a new day at the Democratic Party, in case you haven't seen.
Yeah.
Mike Miller still runs the party.
It's
Cut
a
it out.
new day
Cut
at
it
the
out.
Democratic Party.
Mike Miller
If
still
Miller
runs the
ran-
party.
If Miller ran
All
the
hail
Democratic
Mike
Party,
Miller.
Maya Rocky Moore Cummings would not be the
No,
chair.
she would
Let's
not.
Be clear about that.
Okay.
No, she would
She
not.
can be chair all she wants. Guess what? And you know this better than most. When you get to Annapolis, there's one boss. I don't care what the
No.
governor is.
No, there's actually
Mike
three
Miller
bosses.
is the boss.
There's Mike Miller, Mike Bush, and
Bush
Larry Hogan.
answers to
There's
Miller.
three
Don't get it twisted. Miller runs that damn thing. That's why he's been the longest tenured Senate president in the nation's history, not just the state.
Mark, you done
Because
got
he's
his
smart.
blood pressure up.
Y'all
man.
playing with checkers and he playing chess 50 miles ahead of y'all.
I see that vein popping out.
He has to get out of the way. Mike Miller
He ain't getting out of
opposed
nothing.
gay marriage.
He laughing
Mike
at y'all.
Miller opposed
This is
repealing
true.
the death
Listen,
penalty.
he preaching to you
Mike
right
Miller
now. You're not listening.
opposed earned sick leave. When the people speak, Miller's got to get out of the way.
No, Miller is smart enough to know he has to stay in power, so he conforms when he needs to. That's just called
Well,
being
then you go,
smart.
But he's not the boss.
He's the boss. Trust and believe. You go to Annapolis with the session starts and say anything against him, and he will put your bill in the drawer. You'll never see the light of day.
He can try. He can try.
Oh, he ain't no
can
try. You know he can do it.
I had some of my bills go in the drawer and come back out before.
That's
Yeah, but it
That's
wasn't-
less-
wasn't
not
opposed
in
by him.
Annapolis. Not in
Wasn't
Annapolis.
opposed by
This
him.
is in the city, not
Exactly.
in Annapolis.
So here's the problem. If you move state elections to conform with city elections, one of the things I like about the city having its own unique time is that races like city council races get the right attention.
That's right,
We went
Mark.
to a 14-member council district
Tell 'em,
so
Mark.
the council members could really get involved and acquainted in their communities, and the people could really make an informed choice. If you think people are too stupid enough to know how to register, but yet they're supposed to discern between their candidates for delegate, city council,
And everything
senator,
else.
special committee, governor, comptroller.
They
I mean,
should.
come on.
We're not talking
You can't
about
have it
here's
both
here's
ways
this.
sometimes.
No, this is your problem.
You're wasting your time.
No.
We've been
because he's
talking
not
about this
listening.
for like 7
Listen,
years, man.
The concern, he wasn't around back then, but when we were talking about this back then, it wasn't about conjoining both of them together, right? That was an idea. Our idea and perspective was put all city local races together and all state races together on two different cycles. So that way, as a state
Well, they are,
delegate,
aren't
as
they?
a state
Isn't that
house
100%?
member, no, because most people consider local races as even though the state
State's attorney and
register
sheriff.
will and the sheriff are state positions, they're actually local to this jurisdiction. Every jurisdiction has one. So most people were saying move those races aligned with the local and have just the state races with the governor's race.
So your revolutionary idea is to move the clerk of the courts and the register of wills to the city
and
side
the state's
instead of
attorneys.
Hey,
It wasn't just
gentlemen.
See, your problem is
Hold
you weren't
on.
even around during
Hassan,
this time.
I'm gonna say,
and
hold on.
real people
Calm
do
down.
intellectual stuff.
Mark,
to
calm
come up
down.
with a
Calm down for a
solution.
second. So somebody very important has spoken on Facebook.
Yes.
Who?
Mark, Hassan's mom has said, "Son, calm down."
That's
so
right.
Boys,
That's right. Mama
you
G
better
is
be
out.
quiet before you get yourself in trouble. Calm yourself
I ain't
down.
calming down.
Your mama just said, "Calm down."
We got these peaches in the cheap seats in the bleachers somewhere. Preaching. Speaking of the bleachers, what the hell happened to the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, listen. Let's be clear. I know you and I disagree on this.
Yeah, they should have brought Flacco in the second half.
All right, just stop.
No, they
right.
shouldn't
Yes,
have.
they should have.
Listen here. You can't spark the off. First of all, if you watch that game, you saw that the offensive line was getting beat like a drum.
Yes.
You're gonna
Yeah.
put a statue of a quarterback in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Lamar had 3 fumbles. He
Well,
would
Lamar
have
couldn't
6.
get out the goddamn way.
But he got out the way enough. Flacco
More
would
than
not
Joe
have.
would've.
Look, the blame for that loss does not fall on that young man who almost brought him back, by the way, and had
Yeah,
a
he
chance
did. He
until the
definitely did.
offensive lineman literally got pushed into his hand.
Right.
Falls on the coaches. When Harbaugh and the offensive staff saw that they were putting safeties in at the linebacker positions and they did not divvy and adjust to have a bigger and better game plan that included how many times could they have pulled that thing out and made passes to wide open receivers? Because now, if the DBs are playing the linebacker position, who's guarding on the outside? The coaches are to blame. They did not make the necessary adjustments, and that's where the blame falls. They cannot and should not, as Jimmy Smith went and told the crowd yesterday during the game, go to Joe Flacco because it wouldn't have worked.
And that's the question, because I was there, and a lot of the stadium felt. You can hear it. The boos came in the third quarter.
Come
they were
on, man.
calling for
You know
put
what that-
Flacco in. But
Hassan,
the question,
you know what
no,
that
I'm saying
is,
is,
man.
as a radio
You
announcer,
already know
you
what that
gotta,
is.
No, exactly. That's what I'm asking. The question is this: would they have? Would they have, Ivan? Had it been Flacco in there, would they have been calling to put this young man Lamar Jackson in? And
Absolutely
I think
not.
the question is no.
Well, you know
But
what? I was
no.
at a game early in the season. They were talking about Lamar. One of the things was very interesting to me because I was at the game and I was watching to see who the individuals that were saying Flacco. They tended to be older and they tended to be white.
Thank you.
But I
Bingo.
saw a lot.
I'm not older and white, and I was calling for it.
But I saw a lot of the younger. I saw one guy. He was a younger white young man. He was saying, "Look, we here with Jackson."
That's right.
And you know, the thing to me is, let's give the kid his due. Lamar Jackson. He gave us a chance to win at the end. Right. So, okay, so we're here supposed to sit down and say, oh, it's not like we got blown out by 20 points at the end.
No.
Yeah, true. He had 6 passing yards in the fourth quarter. However, once that kid was able to have the offense opened up, you could see what he could do. Look,
Man,
I don't know about you. I really wanted to win. But I felt it was going to be different because the Chargers were in a different place. The Chargers, we'd gotten them. They'd faced us. We needed that game to allow him to have his coach.
Right.
And they were outcoached.
I think the Chargers figured this out. Most teams were playing either a nickel or a dime. They were playing a quarter package. They were playing 7 men up front.
Yeah.
So they knew something about our offense that just
But
everybody else couldn't
but
really figure
he needed
out.
that game now
He'll be better
so
for
he
it.
could
There
be
you go.
better over in the off seasons to know what they need to do.
Well, here's the
so
question
we would have
is
been
this.
able to have
Not
that
only
loss
but
like that.
People are
and
forgetting that
hurt.
he is the reason why we won the division.
Yeah.
I'm about to say,
Right.
this is the thing, and I think Ivan's spot on. Listen, when the Ravens had Tyrod Taylor as their backup and Flacco was bumming it up, and we know that has happened over years. I don't remember the stadium booing and saying take him out of the game.
Well, he wasn't a starter either. He's a
Well,
qualified
hold on.
third string.
Stop right there. He
He did start for a
and
little
took
bit.
Buffalo
Yeah.
to the playoffs last year.
Yeah,
and where was Joe
different structure.
Flacco in the playoffs last year? He was at home.
But here's the question,
We were
though.
choking against Cincinnati last year.
That's where we were.
Yeah. But that was on our defense though last year. We
The
won
white-
that game until the end.
The
It was
white
38
folks have been
seconds.
the white folks have been waiting for that boy to fail all along.
Well, here's the question. Here's a question from an analyst that I think is a great question. I don't know if it'll work or not. You know, the Chargers and every other team were focused on Lamar Jackson and the running style of this new offense.
Yes.
Going in, do you switch it up real quick and put in a Joe Flacco to start the game to
Or
throw
even
them off?
RG, or even RG3.
Well,
That's what I
RG
was saying.
RG's the same
way.
quarterback. He's the
So you
same
had to-
quarterback. His job
do
is
you
to be
switch it up?
Lamar's mentor. That's
Right.
what his job is.
Do you switch it up and put a Flacco style offense
No.
and mess with their
No,
head?
you
that's
don't
what I
do
was
that.
looking
You want to
at.
know why? One, the most important thing is when you look at the players. The players wanted Lamar.
They did.
If
Over-
if Harbaugh
Yeah, the
does
energy
that,
was with
he
Lamar.
loses the team.
Yeah, he loses
You
the energy
can't
of the
lose
team.
the
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
The energy is they listen. They're gonna ride with who got them to the dance. That and
That's
Lamar
exactly
got
right.
them there. You like that's the
wasn't just-
culture of a sports
And
team.
you even
It
heard some
wasn't
of the
just-
guys as they were leaving out the locker room today saying that they had the most fun that they've ever had
With
you know,
Lamar.
in a season.
Ride with
and
that
it was-
boy.
And you know what?
And Ray came in the locker room before the playoffs, rallied around this young man. Him and Ed Reed. I mean, they really got behind this kid.
Yeah.
And got the team behind him for the playoff.
Ivan?
So,
You know, I was going to say, you know, we started off talking about the police commissioner. I think the same thing can be said in terms of the police officers out there. They're looking for their quote unquote Lamar Jackson, that person, that figure who's going to come to them, that's going to rally around them, that's going to make them feel good about being together as a team and doing it the right way. You know, winning championships is hard. There's only one champion a year. So most players never ever get to understand that. So before you actually sometime win, you often have to lose. So if this is what we needed to do in terms of the growing pains, look, I'm a Ravens fan. I'm down with my team. But I also recognize when you sit down and look what Lamar gave that team this year, the way he picked them up, his infectious personality of just being a good person, you eventually want to circle this young man like his teammates have done and say, you know what, we're all one and we're all in this together.
well, the
and I like
question
that.
is this. Moving
If he
forward,
would-
we
if you
saw
would've
that the
switched him out
Chargers
for
now
Flacco,
had the
would've torn
answer.
the city
Right?
apart.
Had moving forward the next season, now that they have tape on this young man and this offense, will it be as effective going into the new season against teams that now have a winning, so-called winning formula against it?
So this is what like the first thing they have to do is they have to go out and get him some weapons.
And get rid of Flacco's contract.
Well, no, they're gonna cut Flacco. That's gonna happen
Get
probably.
that contract
That's
out the
done.
goddamn way.
That's
Right, that's
done.
done.
They got to get him some weapons. When you look at Russell Wilson, for example, when you look at Deshaun Watson, for example, when you look at the quarterbacks that are mobile like that have had success in the league, they all have dynamic receivers, a dynamic running back. And while Michael Crabtree is an okay receiver, we can say that the Ravens don't have a top 30 receiver on their team, right?
Willie Snead and Crabtree,
That-
maybe not top 10.
30.
They may be top 40.
Oh, that's my point. But
30.
when you look at those other teams, look at what he has in DeAndre Hopkins. That's what he needs.
Yeah.
But that's one person. We got Crabtree, we got Snead, we got Chris Moore if you really want it because he steps up.
But you're forgetting
We got
he also had
multiple
Demaryius Thomas till he got hurt. But that's my point. The Ravens need skilled position players on offense to aid him and help him, and they need to now have a full year of building the offense around him because it's still limited because they just haven't put it. Only a half a year. They expand that offense around, give him the options, what makes Wilson and Watson and all these other folks and what made RG3 successful his rookie year is that they had so many different looks. So even when you adjust, they adjust. That's what they have to spend. I think they will. They have a good coaching staff. They'll do that in the offseason.
Will Harbaugh stay beyond next year? They said that they want to negotiate.
Well, he's got a 1
They
year.
haven't
I
gotten
thought he
him a
had a
new
1 year
contract. He has
extension.
no.
Not yet. He hasn't signed it yet.
He hasn't have a contract. They said that they will discuss it before the
I thought
Chargers
he got an
game.
extension.
Yeah, I thought he had a
got
1
this
year
year.
extension.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
this year.
The
This
fol-
next
the
one.
following, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
But after this year, if they don't negotiate in the offseason, he is a free agent after next season. Will they negotiate as they promised before the San Diego
Well, I
game?
think that all depends on who's the new Ozzy going to be. Like, all of that kind of stuff has to come into play.
Yeah, I think, they have the new guy.
Was it DaCosta?
DaCosta,
DaCosta,
he's
yeah.
already there. I think that it'll be a seamless transition. I think they like each other. I think he has a good spot. I think he signs a 5-year deal that's going to make him one of the top 5 highest paid coaches in the league. And I think he likes this team. I mean, he'll go down as the winningest coach ever. And I think, Harbaugh, from what I can see, where can he go? Would he go to Denver or will he go to Miami? And those are the places. He's an old head school guy. He knows the GM. He knows the team. This is his environment. Now this is his team. And I think there's some things that he wants to do. I mean, he's worked very hard to go from a Super Bowl winning team to rebuilding on the fly. Yeah. And so do you want someone else now to just come in and take advantage? What you've worked to build?
Like they did Tony Dungy back in the day. That's how Gruden got this new big contract.
Yeah.
Well, fellas, we have the lines filled, so let's go to the lines real quick while we have a chance. Now, Mark, hang on. I'm going to try to do this. First time I'm locking in you and bringing in somebody else, so hopefully I don't drop you, buddy. Hold on. All right. Caller, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Hey, Hassan and Brandon Scott, change is coming to Baltimore. Hassan, this radio show you have today, this is the first time I call it, okay? But let me tell you something. With one agenda, police, everybody, citizens in Baltimore City, let's support this show and make this show good because we could bring change to Baltimore. I love Baltimore City. I may even take a run again. And please, people, we are family. Let's do it and make Baltimore one of the best cities in America. Y'all put down the guns and pick up the books and let our children be our future. Good evening from Baltimore City. My name is Leon Hector. I may take a run again. Baltimore Canes must come.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Can we use that as a soundbite?
Yeah, we're going to use that as a promo today. Brother Leon lives right over there off of what Belvedere becomes Echodale. Yeah. He's not in your district. He's in Ryan's. Yeah.
And Mark, you're still there with us, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I didn't lose you. All right,
Question is Terrell Suggs going to come back?
I thought he was getting ready to announce against Brandon. I got nervous. Okay.
Callers, call back. I'm not sure what happened. We had 2 callers on there. Please call back. And Michael Eugene. Now, I hope I didn't. And Michael Eugene Johnson was on the line. Mr. Johnson, we'd like to hear your opinion on a few things.
And that's the question, too. Terrell Suggs could possibly retire, right? I don't think he's in. I think he'll probably be back for at least one more year.
I think he should go out and everyone know it's his last year. I think that would be a good way for him to go.
But there's
you think that's a season ending last year? He's going to retire as a Raven, or is he going to go somewhere else?
He ain't going to damn place else. He's retiring it just like Ray as a Raven. That's just in their blood.
Yeah. Depends also how much money they're willing to pay him. This is the last year of his contract?
Yeah, this is last year.
He would have to sign a new one to play next year, right? Yeah.
Even if they do him year by year, I still think
one more year. Let him have his victory lap, man. Let him have his Kobe lap.
C.J. Mosley, possibly a free agent this year as well.
They got to sign him up.
They got to bring him back. Eric Weddle could possibly leave as well.
He said either he's going to be a Raven or he'll retire.
That's what he said. I was about to say he might retire too, though.
Yeah, but I
think they bring him in. I think they bring pretty much everybody back
from the
except for Flacco. Yeah, except for they have money this
year.
So
what? So Ivan, to that point,
especially if you leave Flacco's contract.
That's frees up a lot of money. I think what happens. So what happens? What do they do at backup when they cut Flacco? Because I think
RG3 can't be the backup. Come on.
No, RG3,
I think when you talk to people, players and people around the team,
even after Flacco's
there are players who wanted him to be the backup now.
Really?
Yeah. So you got people think that and I think that if Lamar can learn from anybody on how not to let someone run you in the ground. That's him. That's who you want as his mentor. Yeah. And you could see sometimes him whispering to him, like, get down. And you got to think he's saying to him, don't be me. Right. Don't let them do to you what they did to me.
Plus, he's cheap.
Yeah. But that's the word. Also, people like ESPN and other folks have been saying that there'll be some market for him, too, because there are no quarterbacks in the draft. And a lot of teams are looking for quarterbacks.
Then you get rid of Flacco. Then
Right.
you got Nick Foles of Philly. He's going to be a free agent this
big
year.
time. Yeah,
And so
somebody gonna cut that check.
I mean, there's going to be pay. Look,
So will what's his name finally get back? Colin Kaepernick, will he finally get a deal in the NFL then?
I hope so,
I
but-
want him to.
Yeah, but listen, Hassan, I think that he should have been a Raven. And if you know the story, you know that basically, they had something planned for him, much like they did for Bill Russell back in the day, and the whole him and Ray thing took place.
Mm-hmm.
At this point now, though, and I don't even know if he comes back or he goes to that new league that is forming. And the truth is that when you're thinking about it from Colin's point of view, he's now in a point where he's made enough money. He's going to have a great after football career anyway. So he's probably weighing it out. You know what I mean? And we'll see how the lawsuit do. But I think that there's no doubt in my mind that there are not 32 quarterbacks better than him. With some of the people that had jobs this year.
Yeah, I
Blake
never
Bortles.
understood why they didn't give him a chance.
Oh,
in
you know why.
Jacksonville. I mean, yeah, we
Blake
know why,
Bortles.
but no, I agree.
Are you kidding me?
Jacksonville is one he definitely should have gotten that.
Well, Ms. Cromer, we can't talk if it was up to me, I talk politics all day, every day. But we got to switch it up too. I understand. I've already got knocked
So,
for talking politics.
Before I don't know how much longer y'all gonna have me here tonight, but I have to ask a couple 5 minutes. So since two things we got to cover. One, first and most importantly, the last time I was on this show, Hassan was claiming that the Lakers were going to be the number 1 seed. And if they,
I didn't say the number 1 seed.
And
If they were getting the playoffs right now, though.
if you would, but if they lose, they can go from 8th to 10. But most importantly, what I want you to understand is what I was saying before. I think LeBron James, when you talk about the total package of an athlete,
Baddest motherfucker
on and off the court. Now on the court, he's not the greatest of all time. Don't get ahead of yourself.
No, that's Jordan.
But when you
But
talk
right
about
now, he's the greatest in the league.
when you talk about the package, the total
Exactly.
package of on the court, off the court, the only person that can be compared to him is Ali. Let's be clear about that. Right.
His civic engagement.
His civic engagement.
Right. Correct.
But
Yeah.
there is this glaring thing about your beloved LeBron James, and that's the fact that he hath no clutch gene whatsoever.
What are you talking about? If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have won the damn championship in Cleveland.
Stop.
What are you talking about?
Remember,
It was the block, the famous block.
It was a goaltend. Let's just call it what it was.
Hey, Ivan.
That was a block.
goaltend.
Y'all hate
Remember,
on the man.
let the man
Come on,
speak.
cut it
And
out.
remember, the play call was LeBron. Give the ball to Kyrie, get out the way so they don't foul you on purpose and you'll miss the free throws. That was the play call.
Yes.
Because he is the worst clutch free throw shooter in the league.
But your team
Hey,
check this out.
Closed his notepad.
His team, the
Close
Celtics,
the computer.
haven't been to the finals in God knows how long.
Hey.
You're just mad because LeBron's there every damn year.
Well, you have a different
Until
team.
you can stop
He
it,
had
they
5
shut it
teams
up.
in the last 5 years. But the last
he brings
the
all of
last
them
thing
there.
I will say again,
That shows his dominance.
for the benefit of the DMVDaily's charity of choice, I am again accepting the challenge
Our charity is the DMV Daily Fund.
from Hassan Newport Giordano after playing one-on-one in basketball.
And we taking all side bets. Because I'm going to
So-
dominate this guy.
So you heard it here
You know
first,
what, Hassan?
DMV.
Let's set the
Oh
date.
my God!
Set
I
the
gotta
bar.
put
Set the
I gotta
place.
put my money on Brandon.
What?
Yeah.
Yo, man, you my guy. Yeah, you my guy. But look, even I recognize.
Mike, man. God
You know what? Even I recognize youth is gonna be served on this one.
He had a
man.
cigarette when I was doing my interview earlier. No chance.
Brandon, as the chair of public safety, can you have an EMS unit available just in case?
I'll make sure that they have one.
That's
ready.
all I need is a machine to give me some air every 5 minutes.
He might need some no-dos to
With
wake
the
him back
defibrillator.
up, man.
You need to have a good insurance policy on.
Oh, I'm taking all bets though. I'm taking all y'all money. I'm just telling y'all straight like this.
It will be streamed live on DMVDaily.news.
This is gonna be
And
great.
I'm gonna show it in political commercials when he runs for office every damn time.
Please
Look, I
do.
schooled that boy.
They be like, man, he can hoop.
I love you, Hassan, but I think Brandon could beat you with a
Man, you too. Man, hang the phone up, man. Got this shit away. My goodness.
I'm just saying, he wouldn't even have to change. He could just.
In my suit. Yeah, I might do it in some suit.
And I'm going to do it in my Nike boots.
In his suit and some Air Jordans.
Hassan gonna play with a cigarette hanging out his lip, looking like an old man.
You looking like, what was that movie that Kyrie did?
Uncle Drew.
Uncle Drew.
Yeah, Uncle
That's
Drew.
how I'm be looking.
Hey, but Kyrie clutch. He a LeBron fan. He ain't.
Right.
It's not healthy to be that hateful
I'm
of
not
a person.
hateful. I'm just.
Oh, you talk about it, that man. I mean,
I'm
you
not
just hating on
I
the
just
man.
had to poke you and just admit. First of all, we know Kyrie's more clutch than him. There's no debate. The clutch players in the
Kyrie
NBA,
is
Kevin Durant.
You wasn't even on Kyrie
Yeah,
until
I was.
he came to Boston.
He went-
Come on now.
You
used to knock him just as well.
No, I didn't.
Now he's in Boston.
He
He's the
went to
greatest
Duke,
thing
so
since
you know
sliced
I
bread.
didn't knock him. So
Man,
you
cut
know,
it out,
yeah.
man. My question is this. We got 3 hell of a running backs in Baltimore. Obviously, Gus Edwards worked well in that scheme. But we tend to forget the running back that led us all last year, who's still on the team, just doesn't get any playing time anymore. Who
hurt.
gets cut?
He was hurt.
No, he was only hurt by an ankle for maybe 1 game.
You know,
The rest of them was deactivated. Are we gonna? Is he gonna leave? I mean, what are we gonna do there?
Look, you know what? The one thing I would like to say, look at Dallas and Ezekiel Elliott. When you have a stud running back, there's so many other things that you have the opportunity to do. I personally feel, is there going to be a stud in this draft, or is there a stud out there that we can go ahead and do something with? If not, you know, the two-headed monster seems to be killing and doing what they need to do.
Not even, it's 3 really, because you got Buck Allen, right?
Yeah.
You got Gus Edwards. You got the dancing kid. I keep forgetting his name, but that's the one who Collins.
Alec Collins.
Right, and he was our dominant running back last year. And you got the boy that they signed, Ty Montgomery. So you really got 4 running backs that are quality. They may not be Ezekiel Elliott quality, but they can start and get 100 yards
It's hard
plus.
to get Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
That's once in a generation, right?
Right.
No.
But I think those 4, if you can keep them under contract and you're not paying them too much, I think 1 or 2 of them probably going to leave.
Who wins the Super Bowl?
That was my last question for the show. Who's going to win? Right now, without Baltimore in there, I'm going to have to go with Kansas City. I like that young man that they have. I like the team and the spirit that they built. I'll never go with the NFC team.
Who did they beat in the Super Bowl? Kansas City and who? New Orleans?
No, I think New Orleans is going to get upset because everybody's been riding on it. I really do think.
So now you're telling me.
I don't know. I told y'all earlier that it was New Orleans' year to beat, so I still think that.
You know,
who's in the NFC? You got New Orleans. You got Philadelphia, who barely won last night against the Bears. Dallas, and who's the last team?
you said the Rams?
Yeah, the Rams.
The Rams. That's the Rams.
With the
I'm going with
Cowboys
the
since
Rams.
days of Danny White.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
I saw Mark. It was repping them boys. How about them boys? I said, what? What? Yes.
I don't care who comes out of the NFC as long as it ain't Dallas or Philadelphia. So I don't have to hear my brother or father's mouth. So
I would like to see Dallas.
It's going to be an all-LA
Rams.
Super Bowl.
Rams.
It's going to be the Rams and Chargers in the Super Bowl. You know why? You know why?
Cut it out.
I just, look, it's Phillip Rivers' year.
Well, you're right. It's going to be an LA year, and the Lakers going to the title. You're right.
Yo, we got to
Right
go.
there.
We got to go.
Hassan done lost his mind.
Of course. Remember, we'll be back tomorrow. We're talking the legislative session that starts on Wednesday at 12 noon right here tomorrow on the DMV Daily Show. Remember, new promise begins with a new day. Therefore, the promise of tomorrow is greater than that of yesterday.
We just want to say
And no,
thank you so much.
Yeah, just thank
City
you, Councilman.
for
Thank you
coming
for having
through.
Yeah, man. You where's your manners at, man?
Man, that's my man. I'm going to thank him on that basketball court. That's where I'm going to thank him at.
Oh, free Keith Davis.